What's up, everyone, and happy Friday. Welcome back to another round of My Patriot Report Live. I am Ratwan Hill, the connector for the sector, which is the federal contract and landscape. You may notice that I'm by myself. That is because Mr. Cotton and I have decided to make a pivot because he's rolling out the Elite SDVOSB network, and his focus is on building that. Well, not building that out, but rolling that out for Florida now. So we made that transition, and now I will be hosting the My Patriot Report Live solo with special guests and special reoccurrences from Mr. Cotton. But what if the skills you mastered in the service, the discipline, the leadership, the insane attention to detail were the exact components or exact keys that you need to build a multi-million-dollar company, a company that you can actually pass down to your kids? Look, I know it may sound like a pipe dream, especially if you transitioning out with zero business experience. But what if I told you there's a benefit outside of your GI Bill, outside of your VA home loan that could help you build an empire? Well, guess what, y'all? It is. And I'm here to tell you that program, which you may or may not know of, is called the Veteran Readiness and Employment, formerly known as Vocational Rehabilitation, or otherwise known as your Chapter 31 benefit. Most people don't know that most people know about the educational track, right? And there's other tracks too. There's the independent living track, and I can't remember the other tracks off top, but the primary focus, which I want to tell you guys about, and probably the most underutilized, is the self-employment track. So what I'm going to do is breaking down step by step, how you can get your VNRE self-employment track, because it's not something that, as I said, it's underutilized. And you would think it would be easy as using your GI Bill, but to be honest with you guys, it's one of those things that you got to come to the table correct just to even get access to this. And we're not talking about pennies. We're not even just talking about the stipend that's included. We're talking about thousands of dollars in debt-free startup cash from the VA. So just rock with me, because we're about to cover what we about to cover could essentially change your family's future, But the first thing that we got to get off the table, we got to get y'all guys to understand that this is the first thing you need to do is it's a mindset, because the paperwork, that's not as hard. The regulations, they're easy to understand, but that mindset will hold you back. That'll set you back for real. So in the military, you were trained to be the best at your role inside of a massive ecosystem that we know as the military. You follow orders, you execute the mission, and you trust the system provides. You're identified by your rank, your unit, your MOS. But when you take off that uniform, like many transitioning soldiers, you kind of feel like you lost your purpose. You feel like you lost a sense of identity. But when you go to entrepreneurship, especially in government contracting, federal contracting, which what I went in, the pathway I went down, and what I'm recommending every veteran to do is get into government contracts, specifically federal contracting, because that offers you a new mission, and this time you're in control. You're defining your life. This requires a fundamental shift in your thinking. Because you're going from pretty much an employee mindset. You being told what to do. Long as you're in the right place, right time, right uniform, you can never go wrong. That's what I was told, and that would help me be successful in military. And I'm pretty sure anybody who was in the military would agree. But because you serve, this is where your veteran advantage becomes a superpower. So the military didn't just teach you a skill; it helped you develop a character. A certain type of energy. Like 9 times out of 10, no matter if they got a beard, no matter how they look, you could tell if that guy's a veteran for the most part. Like I don't know, maybe it's like I don't know, it's something that you could look at somebody, you like, I bet that guy's a veteran, and 9 times out of 10, that guy's a veteran. But what you learn from the military, that that discipline, that integrity, the ability to do the right thing without being told, or doing the right thing when no one is watching. That's a skill set that we have. The ability to lead a team, manage a complex project, and that special attention to detail that we have is something that's transferable into government contracting, especially when it comes to reading proposals and reading solicitations, because you missing one part of that solicitation could be all it takes for you to not win that contract. So, but that's just like another Tuesday for us. And since we're used to being in that environment, it's easy to transition that high stake, that high energy, that attention to detail into federal contract. Now, for some civilians, the world of federal contract, it could be a little intimidating. For veterans, it should feel familiar. It's a structured environment where your skills give you an immediate, serious, competitive advantage. So the goal isn't just to replace that old income, but it's to build a generational wealth for your family that keeps running way, way, way after you have passed away. So you have to see this business not just as your job, or not just as a side hustle, but this is your most valuable thing you own. Well, the second most valuable thing you own, because the most valuable thing you own is your time. But this mental shift is, the foundation that you need. So without that mental shift, you're gonna always be in that worker mindset, and that's gonna make it harder for you to build the empire, build the generational wealth, and buy back your time. So how do you start? How do you even get access to this benefit called VNRE Chapter 31 self-employment track? Right. So the biggest problem with business owners, or small business owners, or entrepreneurs looking to become a business owner, is the fact that capital is one of those things that is hard to access. So this is where the game changer come in. The VA Veteran Readiness and Employment Program, specifically the self-employment track. Now, a lot of veterans, they hear about VNRE, formerly Voc Rehab, but a lot of people don't know that a lot of veterans formerly, so a lot of veterans hear VNRE or Voc Rehab, and they think it's only for those who are, severely disabled and can't work a normal job. And while it's absolutely while it's for that purpose, it has another function, and it's a entrepreneurial launch pad. The VNRE, the VNRE self-employment track is designed for veterans with service-connected disability. You have to have let me go back. For a service-connected disability who face a real barrier to employment. So that's essential. It's got to be a reason why you can't find suitable employment. So if your service-connected conditions make it tough to find or keep a traditional job, then it works out for you. So you might be eligible. Now, the key phrase is a suitable employment. So you can't say, "Oh, I got back problems and now I'm about to go do a construction job or something." I'm just using that as an example. So this isn't just about getting any type of job. It's about finding a long-term, viable career. And for a lot of us, being our own boss is the most suitable path there is. So, to get in the door, you generally need at least about 10, not about, you need at least 10% of service connected disability rating and an employment handicap for your counselor to determine you entitled to your benefit. So this just means your disability gets in the way of finding and keeping a suitable job. The process kicks off when you apply for VNRE, and that's a simple process. Once you log into va.gov, most of your information will pop up, and if you just type in vocational rehabilitation or VRNE, the application will process pop up. You click it, you already signed in. 99% of your application is already filled out once you already log in. So I would tell you to make sure you logged in, and that way it'll eliminate the any difficulties you may have with the paperwork. So the meeting, once you apply for the VNRE, it may take a couple of weeks. Your counselor, you'll receive an email saying that you have an appointment for this date at this time, and then that's when you meet with your counselor. You meet with your VNRE counselor. Now, this is the important, because this is the initial meeting. This is what's going to allow you to be considered entitled and eligible to even receive the VNRE. So it's a couple approval processes that you have to, or a couple approval phases you will have to go through. So you have to go through the initial counseling with your VRNE counselor to make sure you're entitled to that benefit. Your job is to clearly explain how you start in your own business, how starting your own business is the best and most suitable path for you, given your skills, your disabilities, your interests, and your goals. So you got to present an actual business case for your own success. Now, the program, it recognizes that some veterans being the master of your own destiny is the best job security there is, but it takes the risk out of entrepreneurship by giving you the funding, training, and support you need to get off the ground. And essentially, it's the catalyst that turns a vet into turns a vet with an idea into pretty much a business owner. Once you and your VRC or your VNRE counselor agree that the self-employment is the right move, right pathway, that's where you start getting down to the nitty-gritty. This where you turn your idea into a plan that the VA can get behind, and they don't just hand out the money after that. So I don't want y'all to think it's like, oh yeah, I'm entitled, boom, I get the money now. They walk you through a structured process to make sure that you're set up to win. So first they're looking at, first you have to do a feasibility analysis. So think of this as the best free business consultant you'll ever get. Your counselor will work with SBA, Veteran Business Outreach Center, any one of those free organizations, or even recommendations of consultants that you have to essentially build out that bulletproof business plan that proves your concept is solid. So you can't go in there, and I think this is where a lot of veterans may mess up at, right? You're like, hey, I got this bright idea, man. I'm a not a knock on my people who own t-shirt businesses or anything like that. Shout out to y'all. But you may say, I got this bright idea. I'm gonna start a t-shirt company. I'm gonna start this apparel company, right? I think it's a great idea. I like the design. I got the concept. I know everything I want to do. But the question is it gonna make you stable? Is it gonna produce a income for you that's gonna be meaningful? Is it meaningful employment? So, with that in mind, you wanna always do this. You wanna identify the market opportunity. So you're gonna have to do your market research, nail down your target customer, in our case, federal contracting, your federal agencies, and you have to know the competition, know your competition. So, essentially you're doing a SWOT analysis: strength, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats. Your plan will detail everything from the services you'll offer to how you'll market yourself to contracting officers. You'll even, you'll even get the chance to create your first capability statement, which is, for government contracting, your company's resume. And, the VA wants to see that you thought it through. Like, this is not just something you thought of yesterday. This is something you actually said. You wrote a plan out. You know what you want to do. You have because if you have the goals, you know exactly what you want to do. Because if you, as I'm often told, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So after your plan gets the green light, that's where the best part begins. That's the funding. The VRNE program provides significant support to cover your startup costs, and it's not a loan. So that's the key part. This is not a loan. I know some of y'all got that PPP loan and probably blew it on a bunch of BS. No, I'm just kidding. But this is not a loan. This is money that they're investing in you to get your business off the ground. Now, you can't use it. Certain things you can't use it for. You can't use it to buy a building, an office space. You can't use it for vehicles. You can't use it if doing farming type stuff. You can't use it to buy equipment for that specifically. But you can. It is used to get essential items to start up your business. So that can cover computer, software, marketing material, website, business licenses. So critically, it also covers the registration you need for government contracting, like getting your set up for sam.gov. But there's a lot of people out there too that's charge you money to set up your entity in SAM. But I'm gonna tell you, it's not hard. Like, if I've done it at least 10 times by myself, I never paid nobody a dime, and I'm a certified SDVOSB. So I did the whole process in the end by myself. If I can do it, I'm pretty sure you can do it. And so the amount of support varies based on your business plan. But it's not uncommon for veterans to receive tens of thousands of dollars to launch their company completely debt free. And as I said, capital is one of those things that pretty much block a lot of business owners, a lot of entrepreneurs from going to that next level. So you pretty much getting the alley-oop just because you served. So the program also hooks you up with training in small business operation, finance, marketing. So the VA isn't helping you start a business, like I said. It's investing in you becoming a CEO. Now, I did want to also let you know that the VRNE officer, right? Because everybody probably like, okay, I hear you saying they could give me some money. I get some money on for this. How much am I getting? So your VRNE officer can approve you, not your counselor, but the officer. They can approve you up to $49,999. Right? You would say, well, they should just make it $50,000, but in the manual, the MVAC manual is $49,999 exactly, that the VNRE officer can approve you. Once you hit 50,000 and up, the executive director of the VNRE has to approve you, which is no problem if you're part of a community. And and I would recommend you join the Elite SDVOSB network, because that is a veteran service organization like American Legion, like DAV or Disabled American Veterans. Those programs, those type of programs are VSOs. So Elite SDVOSB Network is the oldest VSO in regards to specifically helping veteran-owned small businesses in the federal contracting or government contracting space. So if any network or any community you should be a part of, I would recommend you be a part of that one. But the point I'm trying to make is that you have the ability to start your own business, build generational wealth, use your VRNE benefit, Veteran Readiness Employment Chapter 31 benefit, to essentially start up a business. And I would recommend federal contracting, because if you are a veteran, a service disabled veteran on small business, well, if you're getting the VNRE, you're service disabled. So you're a service disabled veteran on small business. They got some money set aside for you, 5% at least, 23% for a whole small business goal. We got a $1.3 trillion market opportunity. We need to revitalize our industrial base. So it's a whole bunch of opportunities to get in where you fit in, whether that's you creating drones, you maybe want to import some essential minerals, help build out some chips. I don't know, anything that's viable for the industry, and that's going to come into your market, your market research. And then there are definitely some industries you can look at, and I'll give you some, for the people who are looking, I would tell you to, look at the National Defense Authorization Act, the One Big Beautiful Bill. These are initiatives that signal where the government where the government is looking to put some money into, and once you realize that, man, I legit can become very wealthy from this, and I don't have a barrier because I have a benefit that will help me get into the space, ain't no reason why you should be successful. Now, I know that was a ton of information, and I know the details can feel overwhelming. So to help you out, I put together a free VNRE self-employment eligibility checklist. So it breaks down the key requirements to help you get ready for that first critical meeting with your counselor. And I'll have that link in the description below. But seriously, being prepared can make all the difference. So go and get that benefit and go start your SDVOSB. Come join the Elite SDVOSB network with me, so you could be a part of a community and you're not doing this alone, and you can come and get some insider information and a little bit of cotton in your ear. And one last note, if this information has been valuable to you, if you know a veteran who got a service-connected disability and they don't know about this benefit, or you got the cousin that's sitting on the couch and he a veteran and he just eating chips or doing whatever he do, let them know. Send them this video and let them know, hey, bruh, let's start this business. You a service disabled veteran. They got money for us, so we not worrying about that. And let's start up our business. And you guys have a great weekend. I am Ratwan Hill. And until next time, I am out.